Hey there, it's Wednesday afternoon, and thought I'd make a quick video showing a couple things. I bought a hose reel for my air, and was getting ready to mount it up there on the wall. You can see that yellow hose coming? That goes out to my shed where I put my compressor, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 3, maybe 4 years ago. Anyway, that's a great place for the compressor because when it turns on, it's not that loud in here, which is good. And then it's not really that bad for the hose. Like, the biggest issue is I need to add another hose to it to extend it to reach around, and that's always like in the way, kind of hanging around. So I bought this one to mount up on the wall, and then you pull it out and extend it, right? And then it retracts, which should be good. I do need to make a change to this though. I want to reposition this thing so it's like 90 degrees this way, so that when I mount it on the wall, this thing's actually pointing down, and I'll let out a little hose when I do that as well. But something else I want to talk about. This is something I forgot about. This tube of PL, the gray one. I bought this maybe 2.5 years ago. Anyway, I didn't have it long. It was up on top of the cabinet I used to have over here, and it rolled off and it fell on the floor, and the nozzles on these ones are very hard. Anyway, it rolled on the floor, it broke off, and it sat there forever. And I was thinking of ways that I could fix it so I could use the tube, right? Because this is like $12 a tube for this stuff, and it's really good for certain things. So what I did was after that, at some point, I bought some silicone, and this tubes of silicone that I bought have, I don't have one of those out here either, but I do have the nozzle. It has one of those screw-on nozzles. But I was thinking that nozzle, because it has a little like lip on the end, like if I could make a washer for that nozzle to fit through, then I could, hot melt glue it onto the end of the thing here, and that would work, right? And I'd be able to use the rest of the tube. And then when I'm done, I'd be able to just pop that thing off again, have it for the next time something like that happens. Or if I have a nozzle that happens to be plugged, I could do the same thing, right? So yeah, the way I did it was I had the nozzle. This piece of plastic that I made the washer from is actually from the shop vac. The lid that went over the filter, it had a hole in the middle that was nearly the right size. I just reamed that out with a step drill, and then I cut it down to size, like the same size. Why don't I take this out of here so you can see it? That'd be helpful, wouldn't it? Yeah, see, this is it right here. So I cut this thing down to size, and then I hot melt glued it on there, and it's been, like, I haven't used a lot, but I've used it, and this is wet right here because I just squeezed it out. Yeah, so that's that, right? Just wanted to point that out in case you, like, if you're out there in the viewing audience and you have a similar problem, this is the way to solve it. And then, like I said, you can keep this thing on and save it for the next time that happens. Anyway, so I'm gonna get out a wrench and kind of switch this thing around. I'm going to take this thing off here so I can unspool some of the hose so that about, maybe 3 feet, maybe 3.5 feet is hanging out without putting extra stress on the spring that's in here. Because you can do that by just pulling this out and then moving this thing down, but I'd rather to unwind it and not have that extra stress on there. You know what I mean? So I'll get the wrench and I'll do that, and we'll come back after I have it mounted on the wall. hear that clicking? You have to wait for it to click at least one before it holds. And then if you go too far, right there, it's going to retract. So I'll get used to it. Another thing I'll get used to, I guess, is this knob on here. It's kind of bulky. Maybe I can make something smaller, lighter. I don't know. Like I said, I'll probably get used to it. I don't think it's that big a deal. I use this air hose to blow stuff off, of course, and to use it with the nail guns. And that generally only happens over here. Okay? Occasionally I got to put some air in the in the tires of my van, and then I'll spool this out all the way, and I'll use this one to reach all the way out. But in the meantime, then this can go somewhere like in a drawer out of the way and won't be, all over the floor, which is the biggest problem before. Also, you saw that I cut a little bit off the hose coming in, but this was already cut. This came from a longer hose, and I just ran enough out to the shed and had some inside here to connect that longer hose too. I want to briefly talk about the last video where I talked about video performance, and not unexpectedly the video did better than my videos usually do. I had a provocative title, and that drew in a lot of people, especially the people that are subscribed. They watched it because they wanted to know, wow, is John quitting for real? So I apologize to people if they felt deceived, but this was more or less a test on my part. I've done this kind of thing before, and it's just words, man. Don't get too uptight about it. Anyway, so that proves my point, though, that you get the viewer's attention, it pays off. And on this channel, because I wasn't talking about this channel, that's another thing some people got confused about, or they get confused in general. They think there's just one channel. There's no separate channels. I was talking about my main channel, and the big problem on my main channel that I was trying to explain there is that there's a lot of dead wood. All right, there are subscribers that subscribed 8, 9, 10 years ago, even less, 5, 6 years ago, 7, 8, that are no longer there. So that and YouTube doesn't know that they're no longer there. And what I mean by no longer there is that they're no longer watching my videos. For whatever reason, okay? For whatever reason, they're not watching my videos. Whether it's my fault, which everybody likes to blame me, that's okay. I'll take the blame. Say it's my fault. They're not watching. The problem is YouTube sends them on their homepage. They may send them the video. Like when I said they serve it up, that means they send it out to their homepage. It shows up on their homepage. And of course, they're not going to click on it because they don't watch me anymore. Unless, of course, there's something that really attracts them. Okay? So that's what's going against the older channels. It's the fact that a certain percentage of that first serving is going out to a group of subscribers that may not be watching your content. They may not even be on YouTube anymore. They may be gone. A lot of people thought that what I was doing was I was blaming YouTube for this. And it's not really YouTube's fault. I consider it a small glitch in the system that this happens like this. But I don't really see how they can change anything to improve it other than change up the way that's working for them. Because the way that it's set up now is basically the way the viewer wants it. Okay? YouTube didn't like wake up yesterday morning and say, from now on, we're going to do it this way. They're following trends. They've been very observant of what the audience wants and how the audience reacts. So they're tailoring everything to you guys, the viewers, not so much to us. Okay? So small glitch in the system there with that particular thing, where older channels with a dead subscriber base, not physically dead, but they're not engaged. They don't watch the videos. They're getting your videos served on the homepage and they're ignoring it. Okay? Whereas the newer channels with a more engaged audience, that's not happening as much. Right? Some of those have lost subscribers too. They've moved away. They've lost interest as well, but not as much as the older channels.
Apparently, I just didn't have what it takes. And the time had come to wrap up the whole Hollywood deal and go home. Back to that $35 a week job behind the copy desk of the Dayton Evening Post. Back to the smirking delight of the whole office. All right, you wise guys. Why don't you go out and take a crack at Hollywood? Maybe you think that you could make